On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, we talk with best-selling author Jeff Haden about success, goals, and how to make work not work. Hey everybody, once again, it's Delivering Marketing Joy. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Kirby Hasseman. Today, I am super pumped. I have best-selling author Jeff Haden on the show with me. Now, he's written over 50 nonfiction books, including 6 Amazon Business Investing #1s, and his latest book, Transform, Dramatically Improve Your Career, Business, Relationships, and Life, One Simple Step at a Time, is currently out there and for sale, and I am currently reading. So, Jeff, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Glad to be here. But keep in mind, I do this for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'd heard that about you.
Yeah, probably for me.
So one of the I was trying to think of things that I wanted to ask you, and I actually struggled kind of minimizing my questions because I had a lot. And I know that you're a ghostwriter, so my hunch is you've probably had the opportunity to talk and learn and listen from a lot of different business leaders. So what are some of the takeaways? What are some of the best things you've learned?
I think the best things that I've learned are more general than specific. And probably the biggest one is that it doesn't matter who you are and what your background is. You can be whatever it is. I know this sounds like I'm an Army commercial, but you can be whatever it is you want to be. There's nothing that precludes you. So I've talked to people that are, MIT PhDs and started extremely successful companies. But I've got guys that dropped out of high school and worked in a restaurant as a dishwasher and cook and kept looking around and realizing, wow, the person running this restaurant makes all kinds of mistakes. If I ever do this myself, here's what I would like to do. And they've built restaurant chains off of experience, not off of, say, education. So I think, to me, that's the biggest thing from having talked to so many successful people. There is no one size fits all. There is no one background that is required. There's no one background that precludes you. If you have an idea or have a dream, or just, most importantly, I guess, are willing to work and outwork the people around you, you can do great things. And if you aren't, then you never will, regardless of where you come from.
That's, one of the, I was reading the book, and one of the things that, in one of the chapters you talked about, hey, people say that you could work smart, or really, at the end of the day, you have to work hard, regardless of your background. And I really I like that. Yeah,
that's not to say you shouldn't work as smart as you can while you're working hard. And that's sometimes people lose that little connection.
Yeah.
But if I can think of, probably if hard-pressed I could figure one out, but I can't think of one person that I know that is extremely successful as a business person that doesn't work really, really hard and work really, really long. And so that whole hack your way to $1 million kind of a thing sounds great. Sell some books, depending on who you are writing them. I know, cheap shot at Tim Ferriss. And he works, but before you and Tim's fans flame me, he works incredibly hard.
Yeah, he does.
The premise of the book, and I know we're digressing, but the premise of the book is 4 hours a week that you would work, but he's defining that as work is the stuff that you don't really want to do.
Right.
So, he works tons of hours, but he's doing stuff that he wants to do. And so there is a big difference. So that's, I guess, one other takeaway would be everybody that I know that is successful is doing stuff that they care about and that means something to them. And so therefore they're happy to get up and go work hard. I would never be a good computer programmer. I could work 24 hours a day trying to do it, and I will never be good at it because I don't enjoy it. I don't have the aptitude. It would never work for me.
Right.
Somebody else, gosh bless you. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's probably the biggest thing is that you can do it if you're willing to work.
Yeah, and your point's exactly right, because we were talking about this. This happens to have been one of the busiest weeks we've had all year in our company, and I've been up before the alarm every day this week because I'm just excited about it, and it makes it not work, I guess, is part of the deal.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing. Success breeds success.
Yeah.
And, success is exciting, but you've got to work hard enough to have some successes, and then it creates this really cool little feedback loop of, wow, that was awesome. I want to do that again.
Yeah.
you know, but you don't just, you can't wait for that success and hope that it comes and then you will work hard. You know, success is always the reward. It's never the I lost my train of thought. Success is never like what you deserve. Success is what you earn.
Yeah, I like that. So it occurs to me in reading the book that, you know, one of your big points is, like, I think so many times we think, whether it's fitness or business or whatever, in order to make some sort of change in our life, we just got to make some giant sweeping change. Right. And I think if there's one overall theme from the book, it's kind of like, hey, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Change happens in small steps. So A, am I right? And B, why is that the case?
I'm sure there are people that can somehow make this sweeping change and make it stick. I don't know any of them, but I'm sure, they're out there. But really, you know, if you think about goals and success, you can set a goal. That's great. But really what gets you there is the routine and the habits that you build that support that.
Right.
And so changing habits is hard. Building new habits is hard. But it's a lot easier if you start really small, right, and you take little steps and then you reinforce that. And now we're back to that feedback loop again, where if you do a couple things and you do them consistently and you see a little bit of reward, then you can do a few more and do a few more. But if you decide that you're going to, you know, run a marathon this year and you decide that your routine is going to be to go out and run 10 miles a day starting now, you'll fail. Yeah. But if you work backwards from it and say, at this point I need to be doing this, at this point I need to be doing this, at this point I need to be doing this, let me build a routine that supports that, and you work your routine, then you get there. So, you know, I think it's like for people when there's that argument about starting a business. Do you just quit your job, go all in, dive in because you've got to commit? Or do you say, okay, I'm going to hang on to my full-time job. I'm going to work on the side to get this going until I feel like I can make it happen. And that to me is always the smarter approach for starting a business or for really doing anything, because it's so hard to go from here to here in one giant leap.
Yeah, it's just wise. It's just wise. I like it.
And I'm old and I've done physical things that I would never have imagined possible, but you know, it's because I worked it small and built upon what I'd done, and it becomes a self-reinforcing thing.
Yeah, that's cool. So I gather the fact that you're a runner. Am I right on that?
Cyclist. I like riding bikes.
Okay, bikes.
My knees are terrible.
Okay, fair enough. Because you talk about running a marathon or cycling or whatever a lot. Yep. And so are those sort of things, is that fun for you? What inspires you? What inspires you to get out on the bike?
Wow.
That's deep thoughts, right?
Geez, how much time do we have? I think the times when we do our best is when we try to do something really, really hard. And if we don't quite get there, we got a lot farther than we did if we tried to do something relatively easy. Because it's almost impossible to truly achieve your goals. Right. You know, it's just hard. Life gets in the way. Yeah. But the bigger you aim and the harder you work at what you aim at, the closer you might come to that. So that's one reason. But the other part of it is I like to fail. And I don't mean that in that conventional wisdom thing about fail fast, fail often. You know, that failing has become kind of a cliche. Yeah. I think that failing is good for you in a different way because it reminds you of who you are. It reminds you that you're, even no matter how successful you are, not that I am, but work with me. It reminds you that you're a person. It reminds you that the people around you make mistakes. They're not perfect because you're not perfect. And it makes you a lot more tolerant. It makes you a lot more forgiving. And it kind of brings you into, I don't know, it resets you in a way. And so when I go ride a bike, I happen to live in an area where there are professional cyclists that train a lot, and I ride with them because they're pals, but they kill me. And when I'm on a bike, they don't think of me as anything other than a guy on a bike. So I don't have that armor that we put on sometimes that says, you know, I've got a BMW, or I live in a big house, or, you know, I've got a book on a bestseller list, or I've whatever. We don't have that. We're just a guy on a bike, and you've got to sink or swim with what you have. And I end up sinking. But that's good for you because I think failing is motivating because it makes you say, hey, if he can do that, I can work at that. I can get there. So I like that failing outside of your work stuff, just because it does sort of bring you back down to earth. And plus, it's just fun to have challenges. Every day is the same if you're just doing the same stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I agree. Well, cool, man. I feel like I could talk to you for an hour, but I promise to keep it short for you. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Yep.
Do you have any questions?
Question for you. I got one for you.
Yeah, okay.
You talk a lot about the giving economy. That resonates with me because at least from a networking point of view, whenever people ask me about networking, I always say that the only way to network is to give. Give first, give all the time, and maybe someday, maybe something will come back to you. But if you go into it thinking that way, it's never going to work.
Right.
So if you want to build a network, just give, and your network will work out. And I don't know. I'd like to hear you actually talk to me a little bit about your giving economy thing, and then maybe how that sort of. So you said this is one of your busiest weeks. How does that set you up for next year? How do you use that within what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we have moved into what I call the give first economy, and what I mean by that, it's really interesting because it parallels what you're talking about, in the sense that I think as individuals, as companies, as brands, the way to establish credibility, the way to establish integrity with your audience is to provide value. Provide value first. I think that's shifted. I think historically we've sat in a world where whoever has the most money and puts out the most ads and pushes the hardest wins. Right. And I think that's changed because you and I can click off. Right. I don't need. I can DVR. I can do a bunch of things. But the people who provide me value. I mean, let's face it, the articles that you write for Inc. and LinkedIn, when I see your name because you've provided me value in the past, I'm immediately interested in what you have to say. And when I saw that you had a book out, I went over and bought it right away because you gave first, right? And I was able to build a relationship, and you were able to build credibility. And I think that that's not just from individuals, but I think it's from brands. I think that we've entered a time like that, and so. That's sort of what I mean.
That's hard. That's hard for some people to embrace.
Yeah.
Because you can't just throw money at it.
Yeah.
And you can't just throw a strategy at it. You've actually got to. You actually have to give.
Yeah. It's a long term play.
Things out there and expect to take.
Yeah. It's a long term play. When I work with clients, I tell people it's 6 months. It's a year. It's like developing a relationship that way. But I think what happens is when you do that, you have clients that are willing to forgive mistakes because there will be. They're willing to pay a little bit more because they trust you. It just builds you up for. I always tell people every customer I get, I'm trying to develop a 20-year customer, not a sale customer. And you're right. It's hard when you need any customer.
Right.
But I think we're in the strategy is caring. Just care more than the other people, and you're going to win. So that's sort of what I mean by the give first economy.
That's interesting because the most frequent question I'm asked by people that talk about content marketing or putting stuff out there is how do I get an audience like yours? And my first answer is always it's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
When I started with Inc., if I got 200 or 300 views on an article, that was a good day.
Yeah.
Now I average over a couple million a month.
Yeah.
But it took time, and you had to, you write with the idea that each person reading it is a person, even though your audience could be big. And you have to build, and you can't ever sell somebody out along the way. Because if I write one hyperbolic headline that doesn't pay off in an article, you're gone.
Yeah, right.
I lost you forever because now it's like, oh, he just sucked me in. And I don't trust him anymore. Yeah. Which is what you're talking about.
That's exactly right.
But it does. The time thing is really hard for people to accept who want immediate results and expect immediate results. And back to that conversation earlier, think they can hack their way to some huge point because you really can't.
Yeah. I was actually having a beer with a buddy last night, and I was saying, I think, sometimes it's hard to quantify. I did this 6 months ago, and that led to this today.
Right.
But it does. It's a momentum thing. You talked about it, and so that's exciting when that starts to pay off because you go, okay, I did this the right way.
Right.
And that's kind of cool too. So,
and that's the biggie. You've got to trust that doing it the right way will pay off.
Yeah.
But I think that's easier if you always keep in mind that doing it the wrong way will never pay off. So that's your only option.
Yeah.
You just got to trust it and go.
I love it. All right. Well, Jeff, thank you. Seriously, I really appreciate you taking the time. And I do encourage everybody to run out and grab the Transform book. I'm really enjoying it. And it's one of those kind of books that I feel like you can read a little bit every day and get something out of it new. So thanks a lot.
That was the point.
Yeah.
So, cool. Right. Thanks, sir.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Hey, thanks for watching, but wait! Can you do me a favor? Please subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done it already, the way to do it's right over here. And hey, if you want to watch the last episode, check that out over here. Again, before you leave, subscribe!